training they go through.
Thank you, Sheriff. Before I say any comments about that training, I just want to thank the Sheriff for giving us an opportunity to have the platform to be able to address our community as a school district regarding this incident and our students and their safety, as well as our employees and their safety. I do want to speak a little bit about the training that we provided. I wanted to take an opportunity to do some little investigation of our own about the types of opportunities we've been able to share with our bus drivers. And so the Sheriff is right on point by talking about his attempt to de-escalate the situation. Our drivers are actually trained to de-escalate the situation in hostage situations such as that. The training is actually called Stranger at the Bus Stop type of a training. So that's Stranger at the Top training teaches our bus drivers to de-escalate the incident in a strategic manner. Our students are also given an opportunity to be coached and throughout the trainings when they're interacting with their bus drivers to also listen to the bus driver and not necessarily the person that is entering the bus. And so we were having an opportunity to see that play out this morning, that training coming in hand, firsthand here in our school district.
Dr. Davis, did the children who were involved, did they end up going to school?
So the children that were involved, we did transport them to school, but we transported them to school where we provided them with counseling services, and then those students were then dismissed as their parents or guardians were able to come and pick them up. We did not send them to class unless that was something at the desire of their guardians, but we provided those counseling services to them until they all were picked up by their parents. None of the students, to my direct knowledge, went to class. They either stayed with school counselors or with social workers and received therapeutic counseling sessions and opportunities to kind of process this situation.
On that note, you spoke and told us earlier that they were all elementary school age, so it's still a range of ages where you said, I believe it was like kindergarten through 5th grade?
Yes.
So how do you make sure that all these kids who are at different developmental levels kind of are able to, like you said, be able to process this? What's that therapy look like?
Well, it does depend on their developmental age and how they interpret the situation. And so right now, it's our counselors are trained to work trained to work with our students depending on whatever developmental age they may be at. And so it begins first with simply breaking the ice and creating a safe space for them to have that conversation. We want to create rapport with the students immediately because many of the counselors that may be working with the students may be strangers to those students themselves, although they work in the school district. But the counselors are aware that the first thing to do is to build rapport with that student immediately. And before we begin the process of giving them an opportunity to talk about their feelings and what they may be experiencing at the current moment and what they were experiencing at that moment. Then we want to give them a little bit of affirmation and an opportunity for them to share and then affirm that they did the right things, that they are here, that they are safe, and we want to continue to keep them safe. One of the things that I asked the students to do, as I met with a group of students myself, was to simply, if there's anything that they need for them to continue to be courageous as they were today, and let us know that they need any additional support. But we will continue to offer support to those students and their families as well as to our employees as they are continuing to process this tragic event.
Are you going to change any procedures regarding bus picking up and drop-off following this incident today?
We haven't discussed whether or not we're going to change any procedures. This is one of those unfortunate events that we don't know necessarily if the lack of that this was a lack of it's a lack of some sort of safety protocol on our part. However, we are evaluating that, and we will make a determination on what procedures need to change. We have already had some brief discussions with members of the Sheriff's Department in the process of going through a simulation of this nature as well. We've had the opportunity to partner with the Sheriff's Department in the past to do an active shooter drill, a full-fledged active shooter drill in our schools with our staff over the summer. And I think it may be an opportunity for us to look at other additional opportunities to partner. I do realize that there have been some partnerships in the past with the city with the Comet bus system and how that works. And I think we may be looking at how we can partner with the Sheriff's Department to provide that same type of training for their officers as well as for our bus drivers.
I know we only saw a little bit of that surveillance video. What was the rest of the conversation like on that bus between the bus driver and Mr. Palazzo?
I think it's a continuation of him being extremely calm as well as being compliant to continue to keep the focus on him and not the focus on the students.
Dr.
Can't
Davis,
fly.
you mentioned, Sheriff just mentioned that the bus driver, he's a hero. Many people in the community are saying that as well. I know you're not identifying him at this point in time, but have you had conversations with him, and what were those like? What is he saying?
I have had an opportunity to have conversations with him as well. And one of the first things that he said was he just wanted to make sure that his students were okay, that his children were okay, and he wanted to know how they were doing. And the students were asking the same about him when I had an opportunity to have conversations with them. They wanted to make sure that their bus driver was okay and that he was doing all right. And you know, one of the things he stated was that he was just simply doing his job. And we're so appreciative that he has taken that approach to providing safe and secure learning environments for our students, because the bus is an extension of the classroom.
Sheriff Lott, can you tell us what happened to Colossus' head in that mugshot? We see a little bit of injury in this picture.
He was running and through the woods, and I guess he got scratched up at some point. That's not from us.
And he seemed in the video you showed to be waving the gun that we now know didn't have any bullets in it, and a threatening nature. We know from Fort Jackson that it didn't have anything in it. Do we know that, did he indicate to the bus driver or the students that we know he said he would hurt them, but still waving in a threatening nature? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Just looking at the video, he's pointing the gun at them. He's using the gun to point not only at the bus driver, but later on at the kids. That is threatening. It didn't matter if there was a bullet in him or not. In the bus driver and those kids' mind, that was a loaded gun that was being pointed at them. That put the fear in their hearts, and that's why he's charged with these counts that he's charged with.
A question for the district, and I imagine it ranks at the top of the list for parents' worst nightmare, hearing that their children are on a bus with an armed soldier. Can you take us through the process of notifying the parents initially, and how hard that may be to the parents and the district at the same time?
Yeah, that's a great question. Once we were fully aware of all the safety and had a better understanding of the incident, we didn't want to interfere, of course, with what the Sheriff's Department and Columbia Police Department were doing. But once we had an opportunity to account for all of our students, we immediately notified the parents of those students first at that school to let them know about the incident, and we began the process of contacting those parents to set up the reunification. So in our emergency procedures, part of that is the reunification process, and so we began the reunification process immediately. Next, we began to also then notify the district, because we also had some schools on lockdown. So as we placed those schools on lockdown, we needed to provide additional information to those parents about what had taken place and why those schools were on lockdown as well. In the process of doing that, we also notified our school board and the members of our school board, and created a direct line of communication between myself and the board chair and the remainder of our school board members, as well as with my staff. We did not specifically identify the school at that time. Those parents who were directly involved, they were notified about the involvement of their students. In general, we notified the entire school district, and that's for a purpose. We want to make sure that those parents whose students are directly involved get first to be notified regarding their own children first.
Any feedback from those parents on what happened to them?
I haven't received any direct feedback from those parents. I would imagine that those parents are relieved, number one, and we are very intentional about practicing appreciative inquiry, and so we are appreciative for our students' safety, and we're appreciative for the fact that we have individuals who stepped up and took care of our students without a second thought, with no hesitation. I think even the initial notification came from a community member to the Sheriff's Department, and as well as a parent, to let us know that something was obviously wrong. But I'm sure we'll be hearing from those parents, and of course we'll keep an open line of communication to make sure, number one, first and foremost, that we continue to provide emotional support for our students. That is going to be our primary responsibility, as well as continue to provide safe and secure learning environments for all of our students, regardless of what schools they attend.
You mentioned that parent notification. Can you tell us a little bit more about the kid on the bus that we've heard was able to contact his or her mom about what he was seeing on the bus and that experience? Can you tell us what that kid was sending to his mother or her mother?
I don't have that information. I'm not privy to what that student may have said or contacted, how he contacted his parent, or what he may have said in the communications with them during that time. Sheriff may have more information regarding that.
We did have a child on the bus with a cell phone that called a parent. The parent saw a Richland County deputy and stopped the deputy and said that what was going on. There was an armed person on the bus. One thing I do want to emphasize is we get asked a lot of time why we train so much. This is why we train, so we don't have to think about what we have to do, from notifying parents to the school response, our response. That's why we partner with our schools so closely, and that we train so much. In case something like this does happen, then we have plans already in place. We don't have to think about them. We just react, and that reaction gets us a successful conclusion a lot faster.
Just when you think you've seen it all at law enforcement, something like this comes along?
Yeah,
Reaction?
you never know what's going to happen next. I think that's what's so challenging about our profession is you just don't know from minute to minute. I was in the gym working out. Our special response team was in there working out at the same time I was, and then we get the call and we're gone. For 1 minute you're in there lifting weights and talking to each other. The next minute that you're trying to get someone off a bus that's got kids held hostage. So you never know. But that's what we train for, to be ready at all times. And I think this morning showed how we all were ready, and that goes to the community too. The community was calling in as fast as they were seeing things. We were getting reports where he was at, what yards he was running through, what directions he was going, what he had on, what he didn't have on. So the community was giving us the tips. So this was a community effort this morning to make sure that these kids were safe. But I want to go back to where I started. The unsung heroes are our school bus drivers, and we saw that this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.